Welcome to the Fit Dads podcast. I'm Brad Thompson, and as always, I'm joined by Ryan Dutton. And today we're going to talk about something that we all do, something that many parents struggle with. Yes, Ryan, we finally plucked up the courage to talk to parents about sleep. Sleep is the cornerstone of health. Without sleep, we simply cannot survive. So today, we're going to discuss the science of sleep, what you can do to improve yours, and most likely, share our own experience of sleep deprivation. So if you're tired of feeling tired, this episode is going to be for you. Some people have a nightmare with sleep, Ryan, pardon the pun. How was or is your experience with Harlow?
She's actually been a really good sleeper, I would say. You hear some nightmare stories, don't you, about parents not being able to sleep for days on end, and just the worst of the worst stories, essentially. But no, she's been fine. She's generally pretty good. She has her moments when she's ill, and I would say she probably wakes up probably once a night, 4 or 5 times. But then once you get her down, she's fine again. She's not bad at all. No. How's Ted?
I feel like this is where we annoy a lot of people, because Ted's been the same. He's been really chilled. Okay. He's been sound, and if ever he does wake up at night, it's normally just for like a cuddle. Yeah, just getting out of bed.
You know what? It's exactly the same thing.
Cuddle, please.
She wakes up and realises no one's there. She's in a dark room.
Yeah,
I want mum or dad. Normally mum, and she'll be like, "Yeah." So as soon as we've come, she's sound.
Yeah. Whereas I know a lot of parents, they struggle a lot, and I've seen some really dishevelled people coming in for sessions who are like, I don't know what to do here. I've had like 3 hours sleep. Should I even be here? What am I going to do? How am I going to catch up on my sleep? It's a harsh one, isn't it?
The biggest shock is that first 2-3 weeks when you've got a newborn and it's your first kid.
Yeah.
And the impact it has on your sleep. You just take your sleep for granted, don't you? You hear stories about how bad it's going to be on your sleep, but nothing really prepares you for actually how difficult those first few weeks are.
True.
But it gets easier. They learn sleep patterns and they get used to it. But it never really gets any easier until, I don't know, like 10 plus, 12 plus, something like that, when they're starting to kind of sleep all the way through and not need you as much.
Yeah, true. Which, it's an interesting one with kids, and look, people who say that, it's not that different. I don't really speak to that many people who tell me it's not that different when you have kids compared to before. But we promised a little bit of science, Ryan, so I just want to sort of kick us off by a little bit of a did you know. So this might come as a bit of education for people. When we contract our muscles, we release a byproduct known as adenosine. As the day goes on, we build up more and more adenosine, which builds what we call sleep pressure, which is obviously what tiredness is. This is why you're probably much more tired when you've moved a lot during the day, which I thought was quite an interesting topic to dive into. But when we sleep, the body sort of resets and clears out that adenosine, ready for a new day. Which, a bonus fact, I suppose, from me is babies aren't as good as clearing their adenosine, which is why they need a little bit more sleep.
Cool.
So that's probably why, especially newborns, they just sleep loads.
Interesting.
Just to sort of build up that focus. Bedtime, nighttime routines, that's something that I'm really going to sort of try and nail home today, and focus on the quality of sleep where the quantity is maybe not there. That's going to be a big one to discuss today.
I've got a few notes on that as well.
Yeah. Which, should we start with, I suppose, the morning routine? In fact, rather than morning routine, I just want to give a little bit of, I suppose, context around what is something called the circadian rhythm, which I believe you might have got some notes on as well.
Circadian rhythm's obviously rhythm of the sun and the way that kind of goes around. And back in the day, before alarm clocks and work and things of that nature, we used to just get up when the sun rose, we go to bed when the sun sets. And our bodies really like that. They do. Depending geographically where you are in the world, it's a little bit tougher, because some places get less of the more of the sun and less of the sun. So over here, obviously during the summer, we get a lot of sun. We probably only get 5 hours of darkness in the winter. And then in the winter we do get a lot of darkness, don't we? Too much.
Yeah. And again, it's I suppose the reason why I wanted to start off with a morning routine is most people can control that a little bit better to almost help them sleep at night. So we've both sort of cited a book. Is it Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's going to be the number one resource that if maybe you've got outstanding questions after listening to this, that's probably the resource that we're going to push people that direction, aren't we?
Yeah. I've listened to a few of his podcasts with the people, and he's a brilliant resource. read his book to start with, and then once you've read that, I would say maybe go and follow some of the podcasts that he's been on, because he's a great resource. But we're going to give you a bit of a breakdown of kind of the facts, the figures, our advice around sleep. Do you want to start with the morning routine then, and where people should start there?
Yeah, which sounds quite paradoxical. I'm aware of that. It sounds pretty weird to talk about a morning routine when we're talking about sleep. But I think there's certain things you can do in a morning that can really benefit. The first one's going to be sunlight in the eyes first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Whether it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you can muster. If the sun's not up, it can be quite tough to do that. Like, I'll wake up most days at 6 a.m. Sun's not usually up unless it's middle of summer. So I use something called a SAD lamp, an SAD lamp. You've come across these before?
Yeah,
just to get some artificial sunlight in the eyes. And what that does, well, the science behind it, is it sort of sets your circadian rhythm to say you've had sunlight in your eyes. Right, start that clock ticking now. So by the time it gets to your bedtime, you will start winding down, hopefully. So I really like that approach. And that's something from a morning routine perspective, something that's, number one, free, unless you have to buy a SAD lamp, which aren't expensive, by the way. But yeah, I like that sort of approach. Okay, let's maybe start at the beginning and see if it can really help us as the day goes on.
Brilliant. Yeah, great start to the morning. And the opposite of that as well is if you need more sleep, and you are someone who doesn't get a lot of sleep. Yeah. Blackout blinds, I can't tell you how good they are. And not just blinds, because, I mean, we've got blinds in here, and you can get them as blackout as you want. Blinds, they're going to seep through the sides. The best thing that we got was, we got these kind of ceiling to floor curtains. Yeah. My God, like, when they're closed, you've got no idea what time of day it is. They're that good. So just something to block out the sunlight, I would say, especially in the summer months when daylight is a little bit more prevalent and you're not getting as long in the evening. I would say circadian rhythm, good curtains. Yep. And you were talking about SAD lamps as well, potentially.
Yeah. And I think for a grey country like England, I suppose the data is a little bit skewed about SAD lamps, but anecdotally, I found a lot of benefits from it. A lot of my clients benefit from it. Even if it does end up being a placebo, you still have some sort of artificial sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning. And I've always said, if you can get into that habit, you can literally just switch it on whilst you're having your breakfast, and just have it like pointing towards your face.
It's interesting.
That's quite a key thing that I try and encourage people to do, especially in winter, autumn months.
I've never used one, but I remember a client a few years ago. It's called SAD, stands for seasonal effectiveness disorder. Yep. And there's certain people that really suffer with this badly, and he was one of those people. And I remember he was the first person I ever heard these lamps about, or even suffering with this. Yeah. And I did a little bit of research into it, and the lamps in the morning were like a lifesaver for him. Lamps in the morning and the evening, so he actually used to use them as after kind of post 4 or 5 o'clock when it gets kind of quite dark in the winter over here. He would turn his light on, he'd just sit there in the evening time with his lamp pointing on him, and he said it was a big lifesaver. Yep. But his moods, he would almost call it his hibernation period. October, post-October, he'd just go into hibernation. Fair. And then he wouldn't really come out of hibernation until like April, which is maybe May. Yeah. And I thought that was such a strange way of breaking his year up. Like, he goes into this hibernation period, he isn't very social, doesn't go out much, but that's how much it affected him. And it really highlighted for me how many people do suffer with this, like with the circadian rhythm. And I think it massively affected his sleep as well, for sure, just because of the stress of it all. Yeah,
I can imagine. And I suppose it is quite a stressful situation, which it's a bit of a brutal cycle when you see people waking up, late, like rolling out of bed, smashing a coffee straight away, and almost having to like rely on a substance like caffeine to get them through those horrible periods, which, I mean, we know like caffeine is, probably a standalone topic on its own, but the way that affects sleep is pretty crazy. I think we've spoken before about like the half-life of caffeine, or it might be the quarter life, something silly like 12 hours or something like that. So if you have a coffee at 12 p.m, you might have half of that caffeine still in your system at 12 p.m, which is not ideal. But yeah, there might be the first ever sneeze on the podcast.
I know.
Yeah.
Apologies.
There we go.
I could feel it building. I was like, am I going to be able to ride this one? No, it came straight out. Apologies.
No, don't worry. Which, I think with caffeine, it's amazing that sort of horrible cycle that people get in where they have that afternoon crash and maybe they have a coffee at 3-4 o'clock. it's a slippery slope if you're not careful. And it's understandable why people do it, but yeah, it can really affect quality of sleep.
What's your... It depends on, obviously, the amount of caffeine you had, but what's your recommendation on caffeine to clients? Is there something that you would prefer them to do from a routine perspective? I know a lot of people, it varies, isn't it? Some people are fine with one in the morning.
Yeah.
Some people live on it like 4, 5, 6 a day, and they'll have them in the evening time with their evening meal and still be fine to go to bed. I think some people generally become a bit intolerant to it over time, but it's still on a, bodily level will affect you and your sleep. There's no doubt about it. What's your advice generally to clients on caffeine?
Firstly, picking up on what you said about being aware of your tolerance to caffeine, you can actually manipulate that caffeine sensitivity. So you will see some people who maybe if you have 5 coffees a day, for example, your tolerance is going to be pretty high. Whereas if you gradually start weaning off that and then go back on to exactly what you were, that will hit you like a ton of bricks. You'll be buzzing, you'll be wired, you'll get the effects of caffeine that essentially you should have had with 5, but your body's almost desensitized itself to it. I like the idea of a caffeine curfew and sort of saying, look, some people say 12 p.m, some people say 2 p.m. Depends again how it affects you, but having a little bit of a cut-off where you say, do you know what, I'm not going to have caffeine past this certain time, and just see how it affects your sleep. Quantity in itself, I'd probably say, the sweet spot apparently is 2 per day, 2 coffees per day. Really helps with like heart health and arteries, veins, that sort of stuff from a what you call vasodilation perspective. Just really helps sort of pump blood around the body, and seems to get the really good effects, and you actually almost get the stimulation side of things. First thing in the morning as well is quite an interesting one. Andrew Huberman talks about this a lot, who is, in my opinion, king of the nerds. He really is. He puts out some cracking information. A little bit dry with the way that he speaks sometimes.
For sure.
Yeah, and if you are struggling to sleep, put on Huberman. Sorry, Andrew. Which, in terms of his recommendation, he talks through the science when you wake up. So if you imagine when you wake up, the reason why you wake up is a build-up in cortisol, which if you imagine thousands of years ago, we wake up in a cave. We're like, right, okay, this is stressful. I need to get up. I need to do what I need to do. I need to go and eat. I need to, drink. So you'll wake up in quite a stressed state anyway.
Survival was more of an issue back then, wasn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
If you put caffeine on top of that, a lot of people maybe struggle with that anxious feeling after caffeine. That's essentially because you're putting caffeine on top of cortisol, which isn't necessarily quite a good mix. There's research now suggesting that, do you know what, why don't you delay your caffeine a little bit? Why don't you maybe wait 90 minutes, 2 hours, and then have your caffeine and see how it affects you? And I've seen people have dramatic effects with their sleep in the evening time because they've not drank coffee as soon as they wake up. That's really shocked me.
I agree with that. I think life's about managing stress, and we've all got so many different stresses, whether it's personal stuff, training itself and exercise is stressful, mental stresses in different capacities, and caffeine can be another stressor. It really can. Yeah. So we don't want to put a really stressful situation like waking up, and it might not feel stressful waking up, but from an internal point of view it can be quite stressful. You're then ramping your heart rate up, putting caffeine inside you, blood pressure, heart rate is all then getting ramped up even further, and that can be really stressful to the body. So cortisol, a lot of things that are not great for like fat loss and body composition goals, then they then become quite challenging. But I like that word. What is it called? A caffeine curfew.
Curfew.
Yeah. So you've always got like maybe a time you start caffeine, and then maybe a time that you stop it. Essentially,
it's almost like a caffeine fast.
A caffeine fast. Yeah, I like that. Cool. Yeah. Well, look, most people would really do well from that. A lot of people would find it absolutely fine. But I think a lot of people rely on caffeine. I've got so many people, probably more friends actually, who are big coffee drinkers. And they couldn't imagine a morning without getting up and having the morning coffee. It's like life doesn't start in the morning until that morning coffee goes in. But again, it's a tolerance thing. I think they just become so tolerant to having that coffee in the morning. That it probably doesn't really affect them. Probably doesn't really raise the kind of blood pressure and heart rate and cortisol levels as much as someone else. But there's still going to be big benefits to them delaying it slightly, I think.
Definitely. And I'll shout out one of my clients, Gaz. He's self-proclaimed like coffee connoisseur.
Not
Loves it.
Gaz Walker.
No, Gaz.
Different Gaz.
Yeah, I don't know if I can drop his surname.
That's
That's
fine.
permission again. But yeah, Gaz is amazing, and he's someone like really high up at this this accounting firm, and he's someone who, you know, it's like part of the coffee culture, part of the culture in the office where coffee will just be, you know, it's on a drip basically. He went from having 8 in a day to 3, and he suffered with like these withdrawal headaches.
Yeah.
So I said, look, why don't you just have decaf past 12 p.m? And that were an absolute godsend, because when he'd ridden that wave, he almost had the placebo of, well, this is still caffeinated. And then gradually we started to wean him off it a little bit, and he smashed it. He's done so well.
Brilliant.
So that's like an idea of how you can, if you're someone who struggles with that and you're having quite a lot at the minute, switch to decaf after a certain time.
Yeah.
Seems to work well.
One of our best mates in Sheffield, he's just done exactly the same thing. He started getting these really bad migraines, debilitating was, but he couldn't think, couldn't work, had to take some time off.
Wow.
And he was having a lot of caffeine now. So he was having like 2 or 3 monsters a day. Not a big coffee drinker really, but he was having 2 or 3 monsters, and he was having a pre-workout. But he trained at like 7 p.m.
Yeah.
He'd have his pre-workout, 6:30, 6:45.
Yeah.
And it just, I think it's great for the first few weeks because you're buzzing, you're having great sessions, but after a while, months and months of this, you can see why it just becomes difficult to sleep, dries you out, just isn't good internally. And he basically cut all caffeine and he feels much better, less stressed, less anxious, less pent up.
Nice.
So yeah, I think caffeine and limiting it is massive for performance and getting a good night's sleep.
So yeah, I think in terms of, we mentioned Matthew Walker earlier, he's a huge advocate of establishing a regular wake up and bedtime routine where possible, and I will state where possible, which it's a tough one, especially with kids. It can be a really, really tough one. Morning routine could be scarpered, evening routine in particular can be so volatile. But yeah, he said if you can control one of them, try and control the regular wake up time, and then control that morning routine where possible. But yeah,
I think that's how he ends the book. No spoiler here, but and then right in the book he says, if you could put one piece of advice out there that's going to improve everyone's sleep, of all the things that you know, he said the most important thing is go to bed and wake up at the same time. That for a pattern of sleep and regularity and quality of sleep, and sending a message to your body to say this is the time that we have for ourselves to recover is the best thing you can do.
I'm really glad,
so you go.
I'm really glad you said that about like recovering, and I've made a note here, which is sleep is when you reinforce your learnings and recover. It's almost where your memories are embedded. So I'm sorry to cut you off there, mate.
No, it's all good. I was going to give a little bit of context to Matthew Walker and who he was. So he was a guy who was a sleep scientist, and he was working with Alzheimer's patients, and he found out that when his patients were well slept, they had much better results in terms of cognitive ability. So he went away and said, right, I'm going to study sleep for 2 years, come back, and then I'll have cracked sleep and I'll crack back on with the Alzheimer's stuff. 20 years later, he's still studying sleep and realising that actually it is the kind of the fundamentals of everything. And it's probably something on the programme as well when I get clients into R5. If their sleep's not good, and it's one of the things they mentioned in their initial consultation, it is one of our main focal points. I really hone in on like how we're going to improve this. And I've got a resource here from my online coaching handbook that I send to clients about sleep, and it just goes through some of the basics, like the main one being waking up and going to bed at the same time, getting kind of a minimum of 7 hours if we can, if not pushing for 8. Little things like no screens before bed, especially up to like an hour if we can, which is in today's world is phenomenally hard. The doom scroll before bed, Netflix, iPads out in bed, Kindle, something like that. These probably Kindle's not too bad. I think the Kindle is backlit, isn't it? It's not specifically blue light. And if you are really struggling to kind of manage these things, they do blue light glasses now, and I've dabbled in these, and I honestly, I remember the first week or so that I wore these glasses, I was really like knackered, instantly like watching TV, or I'd be on my phone just before I go to bed, and I'd feel like I'm dropping off, something that I hadn't felt before wearing the glasses. So I can't recommend the glasses enough if you are struggling for that kind of real drop off before bed. Supplements as well. This is something that I think is a topic worth noting. one thing I will say is massively avoid sleeping tablets. I think that really is like a real last resort if you are suffering with things like, I don't know, insomnia or other versions of sleep deprivation. Those they can work in that sense, but I wouldn't get used to taking them if you're just missing a few hours here and there. One of the best things I took was magnesium and melatonin. Those two things for me have worked really well. They sometimes come in the form of ZMA, which is a kind of a zinc, magnesium, and something else in there.
I can never remember the last one.
Is it beta-alanine, something like that?
No idea.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But there's a combination of really good for knocking you out. And I remember the first time I took those, it was actually my mate who gave me. It was like, I've got these new ZMA tablets. Do you want to take them? I was like, yeah, go on then. Within 10 minutes, I was out, tongue out on the sofa. It was like, bloody hell, they have worked quick. So they're really good. Again, there's going to be varying levels of success rate with people, but something to kind of bear in mind. I normally recommend a hot shower or bath, maybe an hour before bed. This has been proven to make you more tired, essentially. I think it increases blood pressure, increases heart rate, increases obviously heat in the body, and then when all that drops back down to baseline, that just gives you and I think it induces some hormones that make you feel a little bit more tired. We've spoke about the curtains and the blackout blinds. I cannot stress how important those are and how much of a game changer personally they've been for me. And then the last thing on my list of kind of tips for clients around sleep is no caffeine post 1 p.m. I've said on mine. I know it varies with a lot of people, but I think if you can keep it before 1 p.m, I think you've got a nice run then up until let's say 10 p.m. You've got a good 9 hours then before things are passed through. And usually, from what I was reading online, the half-life, it can be 12 hours, but sometimes it's usually around 6 to 9. So that kind of puts us in that window that we've got 9 hours before the caffeine's done, dusted, passed through, and we're into that kind of sleep state.
Amazing. And I think the reason why we've probably spent so long talking about accessories and supplements and that sort of stuff is we really want to focus on the quality where the quantity is not available. So if you are someone who your sleep is heavily disrupted, these things could really be a game changer for you, because all of a sudden your sleep quality skyrockets. And we all know that feeling when you get in bed and you try and really force yourself to sleep. It's probably the worst thing you can do, because it's a bit like, how hard is that when you lay in bed and you're forcing yourself to sleep? It's like it does the opposite. So if you've got something that can almost do it for you without relying on it, of course, still doing all the basics, but knowing that you've got that stuff to hand, like your supplements and things that are going to get you really good quality sleep, where maybe quantity is not there. Yeah,
I agree. Quality is the big thing, and in that realm is the most important thing, which is REM sleep. There's different varying states of sleep, but the common knowledge is REM sleep is something that everyone wants to achieve to get into the deepest level of sleep to recover the fastest and most efficiently. REM standing for rapid eye movement, actually, which I thought was quite an interesting.
Cool,
yeah. Which basically you may have seen. I see it in the dog sometimes, Walter. So he'll be asleep on the sofa and his eyes will be twitching. I'm like, is it REM sleep? He's having a good nap, that lad.
Oh, I love that.
But it tends to be when you kind of it's the dreaming state as well. When you get to that state, you kind of that's when you kind of your dreams start. Maybe it's good. I want to come on to dreams shortly, actually, because there's something that Matthew Walker mentioned in his book about dreams, which I thought was fascinating. But before we go into that, I wanted to actually mention, forget like sleep from a performance point of view, from a well-being point of view, just how important it is from a health point of view. Again, coming back to Matthew Walker's book, there was a story that I read in there that really cemented to me actually how vital it is to every single person from a functionality point of view. It was about a guy who went a few days without sleeping. He assumed that he had some kind of insomnia. He then went like a week without any sleep, and inevitably he had to take time off work. A couple of months went by and he was struggling to do the basics, like day-to-day tasks. 6 months went by and he now needed 24-hour care. So he went 6 months without sleeping at all. After 10 months, this man unfortunately passed away. But at 10 months, it just shows that something so vital to the body and so important. If that's stripped away, we'll pop our clogs basically.
Yeah.
And people neglect sleep. They'll go, oh, don't worry, I just had a few hours less here, a few hours less here. But let's say that 10 hours of not sleeping, all the hours that he missed every night.
Yeah.
Let's say you spread that out over a lifetime. Or let's say you spread it out over your working life where you've got kids, let's say for 30, 40 years, right? How much is it damaging your health then? Every hour that you miss, 1, 2, 3 here and there, spread over the space of the 10-month period. I mean, if you added up all the nights sleep that he lost in that 10 months, you're talking hundreds, maybe thousands of hours of sleep, right? Yeah. But what if we spread that out over a lifetime? I just think sleep is something that you just, if at any cost, you don't want to be sacrificing. But it's so easy to do, isn't it? When you've got one more show on Netflix, it's the last one in the series, I'm just going to watch it. Or, it's normally getting to bed this issue for most people rather than waking up, isn't it? And that's something that I think a lot of people need to pay more attention to and prioritise more in their life when it comes to, the performance goals and especially aesthetic goals as well, hitting targets. And
like you said, just from the sanity, I suppose, making decisions, it's proven now that you make worse decisions when you're fatigued.
Yeah,
which is
absolutely, and it affects who you are as a human being. Your personality's dulled, your relationship suffers, your stress levels are higher. Yeah. You're just not you. It's it reminds me of the what's that advert?
Snickers.
Snickers.
Yeah. Not you when you're hungry.
Yeah, that's it. You're not you when you're hungry.
Yeah.
Well, sleep could do that same advertising campaign.
Yeah.
You're not you when you're sleep deprived, because you're just not. You're grouchy, you're grumpy, everything suffers. I know the worst states and moods I'm in are always when I'm underslept, every single time. There's a massive correlation for me between how happy, excited, motivated, good with the kids, the missus I am, and my sleep. So, I can't stress how much of a priority it is. And you can go years and years and years not sacrificing it and not really appreciating how important it is. And then once you make that switch and something changes and you start prioritising your sleep, you're like, oh God, this is what it feels like to get a good night's sleep, to be myself, to be who I want to be, and not be grouchy and grumpy. So I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, and again, I suppose from a sleep deprivation standpoint, people almost do it to himself, and we cast his mind back to wartime. Sleep deprivation was a form of torture. They used to keep people up to essentially get them to crack, because everybody will. There's a saying where they say, I think I saw an interview with an ex-Marine, and he's the guy from SAS right at the end, the bald guy. I don't know if you've seen...
Yes, I do. Yeah.
It was him, and he were talking about survival techniques for torture. And how do you stop cracking? He says, everybody cracks. Really? Everybody cracks. He says, everyone will crack.
Point,
He says there's coping mechanisms, but if you don't sleep, you're under stress, everyone will crack.
Yeah.
If you're in pain, everyone will crack. And some people almost involuntarily choose that, than to do it to himself every single night, because they think, well, this is my time with my missus, or kids not sleeping, so I'll just sit and this is my time to scroll through Instagram or whatever. And you're taking away some of tomorrow's happiness, essentially. And that's quite a philosophical thing to say, but as soon as you remove sleep from that night, you can take tomorrow's happiness away.
I totally agree. Yeah, it's a nice way of putting it, that. Just coming back to something we were talking about in the previous episode about alcohol, we were talking about the longevity of life as well, and saying the effects of alcohol on longevity of life. But you mentioned the blue zones, and someone go into these zones where people live longer, essentially. We call them blue zones. I guarantee that the people in those blue zones get a good night's sleep. Every single one of them. Yeah, they'll have a really good sleep routine. And it's something that they'll have had for most of their life, I would say, because it just reduces stress, it reduces everything that is associated with sleep deprivation.
Yeah, I think I'd sleep well if I were by the sea in Sardinia. I think I'd definitely sleep well.
Yeah, for sure.
Which which I've wrote here as well. Many are a struggle to get out of bed, but paradoxically struggle to get in bed, and that's a bit of a take-home message for people. If you are one of them people, and you've not quite got a morning routine, have you got a bedtime routine? You've mentioned, I suppose, a little bit about what you do. What's your bedtime routine look like, mate?
It's a good question.
Does it vary, would you say?
Yes and no, generally. I usually work quite late, so if I can be working from anywhere to 7, 8, 9 o'clock some nights.
Yeah.
But as soon as I've finished work, I'm immediately trying to get myself into that state of like switch off and zone out, because I know how long that process can take. If you're finishing at work at 5-6 o'clock, you've got plenty of time to start winding down. My schedule's a little bit different in that, because I finished late.
Yeah.
I'm now having to kind of play catch up a little bit, and so there's certain things that I'll do. Like I think for me, it isn't the same for everyone, but I think having quite a decent meal before bed makes me quite tired. I want to go to bed full.
Yeah.
So for me, I do save quite a few calories for the evening time to make sure that evening meal is there. And it's the same thing as, you know, once you've consumed, like you eat your Sunday roast or your Christmas Day dinner, what's the first thing you do? You get in the sofa and you zonk out, basically, because you've had those carbs and they're there and they're making you feel tired. And I like to do something similar in my approach to my evening routine. But I've not really struggled with sleep for a while now. I think for me, when I do struggle with sleep, it's normally stress related. There's always something in my life that I'm worrying about and something that's on my mind. Sometimes I know what it is and sometimes I don't until it's passed. And that's the tricky thing with, I guess, managing stress and sleep. If you don't actually know, you can't pinpoint what it is in your life that's causing you to kind of have disrupted sleep, it's hard to tackle it and approach it and get around it. But at some point, inevitably, it will pass, and maybe things will become, you know, a bit more certain in that respect. Yeah. But I always, before bed, there's no doubt about it, I'll have my magnesium and zinc, 100%. If I'm struggling, I may even read as well. That's something I like to do before bed. I think if I'm really tired as well, it will only take me a couple of pages before I'm zonked out. I think reading before bed is something I highly recommend. Yeah. I've not used my blue light glasses for a while, but if I'm, again, really struggling, that'll be something that I implement for sure. Because, again, it's very difficult in the evening time to stay off your phones and not message people back, clients, things like that. So I can't recommend that enough. So, yeah, that's probably my routine in a nutshell. What does yours look like?
Very similar. Very, very similar, in a sense that I probably don't work as late as what you do. Like, I probably do 2 late nights a week, and that'll be me done at like 7. So I've still got that time to maybe get Ted to sleep. And from being young, we've always given Teddy like some extra food before bed, not quite supper, but it's into a phase at the minute of having cereal before bed. I'm not saying Teddy is my guinea pig, but there's studies out there now that say if you can have extra carbs before bed, it does actually help you sleep.
Absolutely.
It's you know, something about, I don't know, like you said, that Sunday dinner effect where it chills you out a little bit. So I'm very similar. I like to have a little bit of something before bed, much to my wife's annoyance when I'm still snapping at like 10:15. But yeah, I think for us, like, it's the blue light blocking glasses. And fun story about one of my old clients who bought himself some of the Tony Stark style ones, you know, the orange ones.
Oh, really?
And wore them before bed.
Cool. I'm getting more like Bono vibes.
Yeah, I mean, the downside about the Bono Tony Stark style ones is they do the opposite. They actually let blue light in. Oh. So if ever you see the tech guys wearing like orange glasses.
Oh, that's interesting.
They're like the opposite. They let in more, they almost block out red light, I think it is.
Right.
Which,
why would someone want more blue light to wake them up?
Yeah, more like stimulating. So if someone's got, you know, they're driving or something like that, they need to stay awake. Yeah. So he accidentally bought some of those, thinking it looks, you know, proper cool.
Did he buy them for fashion?
No, like on my recommendation to buy some blue light blockers, but he just bought the wrong ones. So I'm like, oh,
these glasses aren't working. I literally can't get to sleep.
I can't get to sleep. I'm like, what? Which one did you buy? I'm like, yeah, that'll do it. So just be aware of that. Okay. And yeah, I think for me, I've experimented before with almost like some breathing techniques before bed and that sort of stuff. If I'm really struggling to sleep, rather than counting sheep, I'll almost like count breaths a little bit, because I'm that guy. If anyone's ever tried meditating, I'll go to sleep. Like, like if I'm going to meditate or do any sort of thing like that, it has to be in the morning or, you know, in the afternoon. I cannot do it late at night. I just go to sleep.
That's interesting.
So I almost meditate to go to sleep, if that makes sense. I'm quite peaceful in my own thoughts, but it's it's just an easy way to think about the breath and what's happening, and it is quite relaxing.
Yeah. So, cool. I was having a little think then about kind of advice for parents as well, and things that we could recommend, and just thinking about some of the parents that I coach now. A lot of them have the worst night's sleep, of course, when the little one's up in the night. Yep. But alongside that, it's when they sleep in an uncomfortable manner. Yep. So if you've got your little one and they're in bed between you and your partner, and you're kind of like making sure they're comfy but sacrificing your own sleeping position, that can be really detrimental to how you function the day after. Achiness and soreness. People wake up with like crick necks because they've got the little one that they're cradling. I think one of the best pieces of advice, and something that I always say to Amy, because Amy is generally the person who gets up in the night with Harlow, I'll say if she's not right and, you know, she isn't settling or she's being quite awkward with her sleep, just take her into the spare room. I can't recommend, if you've got the luxury of a spare room, use that as a parent more often than not, because everyone gets a better night's sleep. The person who's getting up can have more space with the child. The person who's still in bed, myself, gets a much better sleep. So I can't recommend that enough.
No, I fully agree with that. And I think it's room association as well, where maybe people struggle with this in lockdown time because they might have worked in the bedroom, whereas typically in a bedroom there's one or two things you do in there, aren't they? All right, that's it. Whereas a lot of people
didn't know where he was going with that.
Exactly. It's to be like room association. There's, you know, a lot of people, they don't necessarily do the work, they don't do the cooking in the bedroom. Do you know what I mean? Like there's certain rooms that are associated for that.
For sure.
And I don't know, I'm quite cynical about TVs in bedrooms.
Oh God. Same.
Yeah. I had a TV in my room growing up.
Right.
And I was pretty strict with it. I'm just like, right, I'm going to cut off there, even from a young age.
That's
I'm just
good.
like, which is amazing.
Okay.
I don't know how I did that. But there's a lot of people now who they'll be like, all right, I'll watch Walking Dead and, all right, night, love. And it's like, I've just watched zombies for a bit and this blue light with my eyes. I'm like, I'm wide awake now, thinking about zombies.
It's funny you say that. Amy's been pestering me for years for a TV in the bedroom. And I've said exactly the same thing. I know what will happen.
Yeah.
If we really want to watch something in bed and there's a series and we're knackered and we just want to watch, I don't know, just some crap for 10-15 minutes, we've got the iPad. I'll hold the iPad, and normally my hand starts hurting holding it and I'm like, right, I put it to the side now. Yeah. But having the TV there is, I think it can be really detrimental if you're not careful. You can end up having an extra half an hour, dare I say 2 hours, just watching crap because it's literally there in front of you. Very hard to turn that TV off. Whereas when I'm down here, I'm thinking, right, I've got to go upstairs, brush my teeth. If you brush your teeth and you're sat in bed and you're good to go, and all you have to do is switch that kind of remote to turn it off, it's very hard to do that when you're in bed. I think it's easy to do when you're down here and you know you've got a bit of a routine to do before you get in bed. So I would massively advise no TVs and screens in the bedroom. I've got one guy, Dan Smith, who's been on the podcast before, a client of mine. He was telling us, actually, I think on the podcast, he was saying that he has a bedside alarm now that he bought, so that he doesn't have to have his phone in the bedroom, which I think was a really good idea. So they have a bit of a walk-in wardrobe room where they've got a charger in there, so he has to get out of bed and go and turn his alarm off in another room. But I think he also has the bedside alarm in case, you know, he doesn't hear it. So I thought that was a great idea. Bedside alarms over iPhones, things like that. It's
just manipulating your environment as well, and it's such a simple thing to do, where if you are someone who can just put your phone at the other side of the room, you can't just roll on your side and pick it up. You know, it's at the other side of the room, your alarm's at a suitable level so you can hear it. If you need an alarm, I know loads of people just don't have an alarm. They just make sure they go to bed at a certain time. It's mad how like confident they are to be like, well, if I go to sleep at 9:30, I'm waking up at 6. A
client of mine, Mark, he was very much the same. I think we might have one at some point on the podcast. He's a really good guy, but he wakes up at 5 every day, has done. He's an early riser, done it for like 20-30 years. And he's at the point where he says, some days I just don't even set my alarm, I just wake up at 5.
Just get up.
And I know when I'm in the best state for my sleep, it's when I can just wake up, and I'm probably in a really good state at the moment. My sleep one of the best it's been for a while. And there's a lot of mornings now where I will wake up, 10, 15, 20 minutes before my alarm, and I'm like, okay, I feel good. I've had adequate sleep. If I'm waking up before my alarm, my body's said, you're good now. And I really think that's a good indicator that it sleeps in a good place.
What's your thoughts on the snooze button?
Well, there was someone else I listened to the other week when it comes to sleep, and they were suggesting that sleep works in 90-minute cycles. So every 90 minutes we have what's called a cycle of sleep, where the body goes, right, are we it basically is a recce of how you're feeling. Are the energy levels replenished? Is cortisol low? Is adrenaline at a good level?
Yeah.
Is serotonin at a good level? It goes through a recce of all these things. And right, do we need more sleep?
Yeah.
Now, when you wake up, whether that's around the 90-minute cycle, which I think if you're waking up before your alarm, you've hit that 90-minute cycle, your body's made that decision for you to say, yes, you're okay, you're good, let's wake up. But if you're being woke up by the alarm, and let's say it's not around your 90-minute cycle, whether it is or it isn't at the 90-minute cycle, you're now awake, and your body's cognizant of what's going on.
Yeah.
If you then hit the snooze button and you go back to sleep, that 90-minute cycle restarts straight away.
Yeah.
And then if it goes off for 10 minutes later, you wake up, you reset that 90-minute timer, and it goes off again in 10 minutes. And it's a tricky one because it can actually do you a little bit of damage in the long run. I think that it really can. It's so easy to in the moment, isn't it, when you're thinking, oh, God, I can get away with another 10 minutes here. I am particularly tired. But I think that'll bite you in the arse 2, 3, 4 hours later. I do. When you kind of really in this state of like, I'm still really tired, your body's still in this state of sleep. Yeah. It's not fully woken up. So if I'm being totally honest, not a fan of the snooze button. I think if you can avoid it, go for it. But look, hand on heart, I'd say 4 times in the week I'll be hitting that snooze button for sure. Yeah,
I'm really glad you mentioned 90-minute sleep cycles. As soon as I learnt that, I don't think I've hit snooze button once since I've learnt it, because
really?
I just don't for that reason where I go, well, I'm awake now.
Yeah,
like, there's no benefit, there's no extra benefit for me to go back to sleep. It's done. The alarm's there. It's time to get up, and it does require a lot of discipline. But if you don't think about it, there's a lady called Mel Robbins who I think I mentioned to Dan when he was on the he was on the podcast,
and I thought it was Tony Robbins' wife. It's not.
It's understandable. But yeah, she's got a 5-second rule, which is you just, if you don't want to get out of bed, just count backwards from 5 as if you're going to launch. So it's like 5, 4, all the way down to 1. As soon as you get to 1, you just stand up.
Cool.
And it almost bypasses your brain's procrastination time, if that makes sense.
Interesting. You're overriding it. You're thinking about something else before you've had the chance to procrastinate. Press the snooze button and go back to bed.
You're almost still in that primitive state in your brain where you can just get up. Like, you can just stand up and your logical brain ain't quite kicked in yet. I'm really oversimplifying, but you can just 5 seconds and then you're up.
I like that.
Anything longer than 5 seconds typically, is a tough one. But I appreciate we spent a good bit of time talking about morning routine and things we can do to help you wake up. Most parents will just want to stay in bed and just recover, but broken sleep is quite a hard one. Like, if ever I've been affected by sleep, that is the number one thing that's probably affected me. Like Teddy sporadically waking up in the night and just staggering it. And you mentioned the sleep cycles. 5 or 6 sleep cycles is going to be ideal. So you think about 5 lots of 90 minutes. Obviously 5's been like 7.5 hours. You can probably get by on those 4 sleep cycles, I've heard, where it's just like 6 hours. The key word there is get by. Nobody wants to just get by. Like, you want to thrive a little bit, make sure you recover. Which I mentioned before we started this podcast, Ryan, that I made a note called a nappachino.
Yeah, you did. You mentioned this when I was setting the podcast stuff up, and I thought, what, I'm not gonna dive into this. I'll save it for the podcast. So, reveal what's a nappachino?
Nappachino. So, when I was traveling, doing my assessing work back in the day, I don't know. I used to struggle with that like soft focus of like being on the road and having to just stare at the road all the time. So sometimes I'd get in at like 12 p.m. crash out on the sofa. This is in the afternoon, by the way. But I'd have a coffee and then have a 20-minute nap. I'd wake up like I'm on a different planet. Like, I wouldn't even have to set an alarm. I'd just wake up and I'd be like, "What?" It was bizarre. It was almost like the caffeine dropped, but because I were asleep. I don't recommend this, by the way. I do not recommend doing it often. But if you are desperate, maybe reach for a nappachino and just think 20 minutes.
So you're using the caffeine and the drop of that caffeine as your alarm, essentially?
Yeah, it was weird. It was bizarre. And I'd wake up and I'd be like, eyes are everywhere. And I'm like, right, let's go. It was very strange.
You're not used to when you wake up from a nap. You're used to being quite sluggish and slow.
Whereas naps usually, are you a fan of napping? And I appreciate that opportunity window might have dropped since.
No, I'm not a big napper at all. If ever I do nap, it's a really good indicator to me that something's wrong.
Yeah.
And when I start napping during the day, or I feel like I couldn't nap, my immediate thought is I need to get to bed earlier. Yep. My immediate thought is if I can avoid a nap, I can get to bed earlier. I can have a better night's sleep. Yep. That's always my go-to. And I think that's generally my advice for clients. But I'm not against a nap. I think a lot of people have naps during the day. It's just about limiting those things, leaving it to 20 minutes, half an hour. I think tops an hour. And the later you leave that nap, the worse it's going to get, and the more it's going to affect your, the rhythm that you're in with your sleep. But I think the go-to should be trying to avoid a nap and getting to bed earlier. Working on your sleep routine.
Did a bit of reading on this before we started podcast about like footballers, especially Spanish footballers. They'll have like siestas, and just Spanish people in general, which sounds ideal to me.
I know, yeah, it does sound good.
I'd love that. And typically their sweet spot is 90 minutes, coincidentally.
Right.
Just because it's a sleep cycle,
yeah,
essentially.
Yeah.
So if you can get an extra sleep cycle, Spanish culture is typically a little bit later on in the evening. Spanish games, football matches are typically a little bit later on than English games. And like we've been in Spain before, and people are still having evening meals at like 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And they can almost get away with it because they've had that extra sleep cycle in the day. And it's a mad culture, but it's appealing.
Yeah, it's
I like the sound of that. Sure. You get all the social aspects, but you're not.
It's weird to go out into shops at like 12, 1 o'clock, and everywhere's closed, and you're like, what's going on? It's middle of the day. Why is everywhere closed?
Somebody once said to me, "Mad dogs and Englishmen are the only ones out at midday."
Mad dogs and Englishmen.
I'm both. That's how you feel at time. But yeah, I suppose an honorary mention for alcohol as well, which obviously we did a separate episode on that. But alcohol, most people think, I'll have a drink and it'll put me to sleep. You're sedated.
Yeah.
You're not. It's not improving quality at all.
Exactly right. It might improve quantity, but it definitely doesn't improve quality.
Yep.
And in fact, sometimes it can hinder quantity as well.
Yep.
So alcohol is something that you definitely want to avoid. There's so many studies to show relationship between sleep and alcohol are really big, and its disruptiveness between the two.
The other one, I suppose, is a bit of a break glass for parents, and this is something that personally I've found a lot of success with, and a lot of my clients have as well, is something called NSDR, non-sleep deep rest.
Okay.
So this doesn't actually involve sleep. I appreciate this is a sleep episode. But the other name is Yoga Nidra. If you've come across this before, sounds very hippy-dippy, but bear with me. NSDR is basically, it's almost like a guided meditation where you'll sit down, and it might only take 10 minutes, and you almost get the effects of a sleep without being asleep. And for a lot of parents, it's an amazing break glass if you've had a couple of disturbed nights or you're really struggling, but you can't nap, but you've got 10 minutes. Something called NSDR, which is non-sleep deep rest. Could be quite a useful one.
Non-sleep deep rest, okay, cool. Yeah, I like that.
I've done a lot of reading into it, and it's obviously tried it out a lot myself, and it's been really useful.
Yeah. Something along those same lines, I think something that maybe I should add actually into my sleep, little kind of PDF here that I give to clients, is temperature as well.
Yeah.
This is really important, and there's a lot of companies out there now that can regulate temperature, either of the room or of the bed and the mattress itself.
Yeah.
One company that springs to mind is something called 8 Sleep. Have you heard of 8 Sleep?
Did you say spring to mind, as in like bed springs? Because
no, I didn't. But
I'm gonna give you that one then.
That joke there.
Yeah.
No, over my head. That one.
Sorry.
Right.
Yeah. But sorry, I have 8 Sleep.
Yeah. 8 Sleep is it's a company where I think it's essentially like a mattress cover that you put over the bed. So you've got your own mattress that you use. You put this quite fancy, thick mattress cover over, and it helps regulate temperature. It can help regulate temperature for you and your partner, I think, if you've got like a double king size bed style thing. And there's a little box it links to by the bed, and it can regulate temperature of the bed. I think it can actually regulate temperature of the room as well with this box in some of the more fancy ones. And there's been a lot of studies to show that everyone has like a perfect sleep temperature, a temperature that they like to sleep at. I think for most people it's around 16 to 17 degrees in the room, or the kind of whatever you're sleeping on. I think there's other companies that can, obviously, things like air conditioning units and things like that can obviously regulate temperature in the room. But over here, we tend not to have those, do we, in the UK? And not a lot of houses have things like air conditioning units. So something like an 8 Sleep mattress could be really good.
8 Sleep, if you are listening to this miraculously, we will accept sponsorship. I will test it out. But yeah, in terms of, I'm glad you said that, because the use of AI now is quite great. Like you can get different temperatures at different side of the bed.
Yeah.
So for example, my wife just loves being really warm in bed. I hate it. I get really stuffy and uncomfortable. I'd rather get into a nice like cold, crisp bed. But the 8 Sleep ones, I've heard you can sort of program it. Whereas if you tell it what time you want to wake up,
Yeah, that's it.
I love that.
It changes the temperature to wake you up, almost like, again, a little bit of a temperature regulated alarm system. I'm going to circle back to something you said about your missus then being warm. So every night, height of summer, height of winter, no matter the season or temperature, my missus will be in full pajamas, potentially with a dressing gown on. And I'm not going to lie, full disclosure, I'm a start bullet naked man. I like everything being out in bed. I like the feeling of the kind of feet being between the sheets, the freeness of not having your boxers on. So I've said to Mrs. for years, like, why don't you just get like...
Why are you not as hot as me?
Yeah, well, she does get hot and uncomfortably hot sometimes, but she's just adamant she has to have her clothes on. And I'm quizzing her, I'm going, does it not feel nicer to take your bra off at the end of the night and just get in bed and be quite, loose in bed? She goes, yeah, but the only reason I don't do that is because I'm really worried that if someone breaks into the house and I have to jump out of bed, they're going to see me naked. I'm like, Amy, the last thing you want to be worried about is that. That's what I'm here for, you know what I mean? I'll lock you in the room.
They'll see me naked first.
Which I thought was always a funny little story. But I think a lot of people do have that same thing. They're quite conscious of how they are in bed. But it can hinder your sleep, unfortunately. Like, she does have some bad night's sleep based on the fact that, after the night, she's having to shed layers. So find out kind of what temperature for you generally works best. If you can get things like aircon units, fans, I know that the fans can be a bit disturbing for you, but temperature of the room has been proven to be a big one when it comes to getting you into your deepest level of sleep.
100%. I've just googled 8 Sleep as well. 8 Sleep. If you have a discount code for our audience, because you're currently $4,000, guys.
That's one thing I was going to mention. 8 Sleep mattresses, they're not cheap. They are pretty expensive. But other things that we've used in the past are the cooling mats. Have you seen these? So you can put these we have like a little blue one, and it's like gel, and you can put it in the freezer, and you can put it under your pillow. I guess you can put it over the top of your duvet if you wanted it to come through. We also do use hot water bottles in the winter. That's really nice. Amy's got this quite cute thing that she does where she'll sometimes get into bed before I do, and she'll put like a hot water bottle on my side. So when I open it up, it's all nice and snuggly. But yeah, regulating temperature, I think, for getting to sleep is vital. It really is. Probably something that we probably should have mentioned a bit earlier on, but I'm glad we've covered that.
Oh yeah, and I think what do you spend a third of your life in bed? So I'm sort of justifying it now. That $4,000 investment doesn't sound too bad, actually. I'm like,
I have to pitch that.
Is that gonna? Yeah. We'll see.
But even coming back to mattresses, the firmness of your mattress as well. That's a big thing. So I've got clients who prefer firmer ones. The partners prefer softer ones. You can get mattresses now that you can split down the middle. I can't remember the brand I was looking at. I think Dreams, if that's just a UK company or not. I think they do their own kind of split density mattress, they call it. I think what's the other?
I feel like a lot of couples compromise. Just picking up on what you said about, like, if your missus wants a softer mattress and you want a bit of a firmer one, you compromise and go what your missus wants, don't you?
You do. Literally like, well, your opinion means nothing. You just go, happy life, for sure. But it's nice as that option now. It's funny, as I'm having that same chat with a couple that I coached last week, and they were saying that one likes it really firm, one likes it ultra soft, and they kind of met in the middle. And I was like, but no one's happy there. Do you know what I mean? No one's getting a good night's sleep.
But it's doing it together, mate. Having a bad night's sleep together.
In it together. Awesome. So it's knowing, again, firmness of mattress and trying different ones. There's no try before you buy with a mattress, unfortunately. But
that's true.
Just seeing what feels comfy to you, for sure.
I mean, I'm thinking about many people from like Reels and stuff like that who just go into bed shops and just go to sleep.
For sure. I mean, you're not going to buy it. I mean, you can buy them online now, but I don't. Personally, I would never buy a mattress without going and testing it out. I want to know what it feels like. I think that'd be a bit of a key component for me.
There is that. Which I suppose, any parting messages from you, mate, about sleep and parents who maybe want to improve the sleep but don't know how, or they maybe they're going to struggle, or they don't know what stage is coming next. Maybe the kid's going to be quite a reasonable toddler, or maybe they like mine and just want to cuddle in the night.
Let's be honest, kids are an ever evolving puzzle, aren't they? When it comes, especially when it comes to their sleep, the biggest factor is illnesses. I think illnesses are probably the most disruptive thing, whether it's for you or for your child. when that hits, it's kind of game over. It's like hang on for dear life and do what you can. But I think just going over some of the things that we've mentioned, making sure that everything is covered when it comes to your sleep.
Yep.
And we've been over a lot of things today, but just go through them individually and go, right, what am I doing from a nighttime routine thing? Is there 2 things I can change? Great. Get those into your routine, nail them, and then start maybe looking at a couple other things for the nighttime routine. If it's in the morning,
Yep.
you know, having a certain thing of getting up and not snoozing, great, let's have that for 1 week and drip feeding all these things in, because if you try and do all the things we've mentioned at once,
Yep.
the chances are none of them will stick. Just drip feed your body these things over the coming weeks and months, and the chances are, you know, you're going to stick with a few of them. Around kids, I think one thing that we've used when Harlow hasn't been well is these Calpol plugins. So
Yep.
you can have a plugin that goes in the wall and it fills the room with Calpol. It just helps, dare I say, sedate her a little bit.
Yeah.
Keep them, you know, fuel with Calpol so that they're a little bit more sleepy. So that's always an option. But I think sleep as a general thing can be overlooked and undervalued. I think if there's one thing I wanted to take away from this podcast today, it's that if there's one thing in your whole routine that you shouldn't be undervaluing, it's your sleep.
Fully agree. And I think focus on like we've given so many free things there as well, like just not snoozing your alarm, you know, understanding those sleep cycles where people, they don't need to throw money at the problem straight away. Like, you know, do all the basics first. If you're still struggling even with the basics and they're nailed, and you're still maybe struggling with your sleep and you want to go into the high quality side of things to take your sessions to the next level, or that sort of stuff, I think it's really important to consider that. One thing I've forgot to mention, which I just want to shoehorn in now, is white noise. I know a lot of people rely on white noise sometimes, whether that's a fan in the room or something that you just play through your phone. My missus is notorious for it. She'll put like a specific beach shack noise.
Interesting.
She'll like a favourite white noise on Spotify.
Your room?
Yeah, just in our bedroom. She'll but she'll put it on a sleep timer. So she'll put it on for like 15, 20 minutes and it'll knock us out. But there's something I've played around with before called Brain FM, which I think I've mentioned. You can use it for focus, but
that rings a bell,
you can also use it for sleep as well, which is amazing.
That reminds me of something else. There was something I heard a while back about, there's a certain frequency that you can play that can get you into certain states. I think there is one for sleep. Probably should have done a little bit more research on that before we come on, but if you can look into frequencies, there may be a certain frequency for you that you can play and can actually put you into a bit of a deeper sleep. Maybe that's a bit of a topic from the podcast episode in the future potentially. But I think we've covered pretty much everything that I wanted to cover when it comes to sleep. Hopefully the parents listening have got some ideas how to improve the sleep, which is for parents so precious. And you know, when those moments arise that you are in a good routine, your little one's not playing up, really go all in on your sleep and make sure it's as good as it can be. That might offset some of the bad night sleeps that you get in the year. Hopefully that gives you some ideas.
100%. And just to stress that message of, if your quantity of sleep isn't possible, really focus on the quality, zone in on that.
Perfect. What a great way to end. Guys, thank you for joining us on the Fit Dads podcast. We'll see you on the next one.
See you soon.